Not going there.
Thank you.
Not going there.
Yes, good afternoon. The Design Review Board No.1 public meeting of September 4th, 2008 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves during the meeting, and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak, including applicants, is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff. You will be called to present a case or speak on any specific item as desired. Anyone who wishes to speak wishes to be renoticed about a project must completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent hearings. Current Design Review Board agendas are available by calling our DRB hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and Design Review Board reconsideration and appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that appeals must be filed within 7 or 10 calendar days of the Design Review Board decision date. The chairperson may reorder items on the agenda at his or her discretion. Roll call, Board Member Aliano.
Here.
Board Member Alice.
Present.
Board Member Insua.
Here.
Board Member Simonian is absent. And Board Member Yu.
Here.
Report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on August 28, 2008. We have no items under oral communication. In terms of staff announcements, there are none. However, we do request that the board, because Chairperson Simonian is absent, that the board choose a Chairman Pro Tem.
I move that Mr. Aliano be appointed Chairman Pro Tem.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Aliano, would you mind taking your place at the center?
We just want to make you move.
That's what happens when you get here late.
Exactly right.
Don't come late.
Don't come late.
All right. And under today's agenda, we only have one item, and that would be Design Review Board case number 1-PDR-2008-045-A for a project located at 3501 Ocean View Boulevard, the applicant being Mr. Alan Malikian, the planner being Gavorg Nazarian. Please.
Great, so we have only 2 cards.
Oh, there is. I would assume that there would be a brief presentation, if you'd
Yes,
like.
of course. Please.
So,
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Presented before you is project number 1 PDR 2008-045-A located at 3501 Ocean View Boulevard. This project was previously heard under a different case number, 2008-017A, on May 1st, 2008, and it was denied. The project has been redesigned and submitted for a final review. The proposal is to remodel an existing 4,350 square foot commercial building for office use. The proposal includes a new roof and overall exterior treatment of the building, striping of 4 new parking spaces at the lot to the north of the project site, and also additional landscaping will be provided in the parking lot. There's also a proposal to construct a new trash enclosure. The lot to the north of this building is also owned by the same owner, and the owner has entered a covenant and agreement with the city to tie the lots to be able to use as parking. And they've been able to provide 4 parking spaces, and 1 handicap parking space will be provided at the same lot where the building is located. There are no environmental constraints. The building has been used as a laundry establishment since 1961 and then vacated in 2004. In June of 2006, a subsurface soil investigation performed by Track Environmental Group found contaminated soil. In September of 2006, the contaminated soil was removed from the site and the site was certified clean with 7 verification samples. There's an attachment with your staff report that was an email from the fire department that has all the dates and the work that has been done to clean the soil. I will quickly go over some short comments. The proposal for the renovation of the existing building was presented in May of 2008, and the board, while it was denied, the board expressed interest in a more inventive and thoughtfully designed building. In addition, the board noted the existing canopy feature and original building design had some architectural interest. The current design incorporates a canopy feature, provides an additional feature at the roof, and integrates a modern sensibility into the overall design. The proposed design reflects the era of the original 50s style modern commercial building while also being a contemporary and innovative design. Staff recommends an approval of the project, and if the board chooses to approve the project, the following can be used as a record of decision. No changes are proposed to the location of the existing building, and no additional floor area is proposed. The addition of 4 parking spaces along with landscaping and trash enclosure is appropriate for this site. Overall, mass and scale of the project is appropriate for the site and the type of use. The proposal is a design improvement and fits well within the existing surrounding office buildings. Overall, the proposed colors, materials, and details seem to fit well within the site and the surrounding. The proposal is an improvement to the existing site and the building. That concludes staff's presentation. I am available for questions, and the applicant is here in the audience as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the parking requirement. It seems there's a mention of 17 spaces required when a previous use.
Yes, because the previous use was a service use and had more intense parking requirements, and the new use being office use has decreased the requirements or the intensity of the parking need. The applicant will not be required to provide additional parking if they're downgrading the use from service to office.
If this was a new build and not a remodel, on a blank piece of land, how many spaces would they be required for this amount of space?
It would be 4 spaces per 1,000 square foot, which would add up to be...
4 per 1,000.
Add up to be... For office space, I'm sorry, I'm being corrected. I think it's 3 spaces per 1,000.
3 per 1,000?
3 per 1,000.
2.7.
2.7.
3.7. 3. And we currently have
5.
5,000?
No.
I mean,
So-
we have 1,000.
4 plus,
4 plus.
4 plus 1 handicap.
43,
What's the area?
4,350.
4,300.
Yeah, so you need 12.
And 10.
You would need 12.
You would need 12.
12.
If it's a design issue, we're less than we would need. This is an answer to his question.
Yeah, it's underparked.
It is underparked.
It's underparked,
It
okay.
is legal non-conforming.
Legal non-conforming.
Primarily because there's an existing structure there and...
Yes, and no additional floor area has been added, and the use
So
has
it's
been
all
downgraded.
legal, okay.
I just recall, I remember the neighborhood being concerned concerning parking. Now, I know that we're a design review board, but if it affects parking, it affects design.
Of course.
That's all.
Yeah, we can comment on that, I suppose. All right, have you done?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. I'd like to call Alan Malikian.
Good afternoon. My name is Alan Malikian. I'm the designer of the project. My office is 919 West Glen Oaks Boulevard. I came into picture after the last hearing, and I spent a little bit of time listening and understanding what the needs of the board was, and once I was retained to do the design. Some of the requirements that I had, and I asked the owners, and they've been extremely responsive to all my requests, that we would definitely meet with the neighbors. We actually met once. We had full attendance. We had another one which we had 1 attendant, and then there was another one which the owners, I was out of town, and the owners met with the community hall. We've picked up a lot of the concerns that the neighbor had. We tried to address as much as we could. At the same time, we've kind of listened to what the board was looking for. Also, within this whole process, we also met with the staff several times and try to accommodate the design needs. What I've done is, I'll kind of walk you through the project, and then I'll start touching upon the certain, the issues, the main issues that has been brought up and we've discussed. I brought a model here so we can, if you don't understand exactly what is happening, we can kind of rotate this around and look at all the areas. So that's pretty much what it's doing over there. The first thing that we did, I met with the building and safety, and we wanted to see what the requirements were when we were, and one of the things that was not clear in the original hearing, what the use was going to be for this building. It is going to be office use. It is going to be occupied by the owner, which the owner is a software developer. They're currently located on Foothill Boulevard, and this will be their base, and they're going to be moving in here. Currently, they have 3, and they're basically they're going to be occupying the area, and it's going to be a software development for the PDA or whatever they're using. The space inside is modified to accommodate all the ADA requirements, all the handicap accessibility, and so forth. So all the interior walls and exiting and the ramps and everything that you see, it's due to the requirements there. Going to the outside of the building, being that there is an existing masonry wall, it's basically a rectangular box, and they went ahead and they punched openings pretty much all around. Building itself is unbelievably overstructured from what they had done. It's all steel supported. The grade beams are generally it's concrete, it's steel, and they went ahead and on the original design they had these steel arches that I'm sure everybody has seen, and that's where everything was triggered. When I looked at it, I immediately noticed one of the main features or the elements that the site has, which is the substantial slope that it has from north to south. For me to design any substantial element or anything to make this an architectural building, a quality design building, I did not want to just to maintain the actual parameter walls that are there, and I wanted to kind of start adding elements there, hierarchy and elements to kind of give some character there. So automatically, looking at the building and the slope of the lot, and automatically it kind of fell in that this area would be the appropriate place based on the slope of the land, and putting any elements in the back in here would actually feel a lot larger and taller than what it would be on the north side. The elements there that I've tried to use, I wanted to kind of go back to the 50s and kind of the minimalist, clean look. I've picked out a lot of green products, a lot of recycled metal, and a lot of elements there that it would be green as part of the requirements that the owner had. We've used openable windows for natural ventilation. The clear story that we have on this side, all the windows up here would be all automatically operated so that the natural ventilation will come in, and all the windows around the side will have an openable top piece that will have a natural circulation there. The exterior wall, being that it's about 2 inches off of the property line on the south side, well, we're going to. Should I wrap it up or?
I think you can keep going.
Okay. Thank you.
Let you finish.
Basically, what I want to do is I want to just do a skim coat of plaster and leave it as steel trowel plaster and just leave that finish as it is and basically seal that. So it would have that concrete box feeling there with the Rhine zinc steel metal that I'm going to be wrapping the canopies and so forth there. There are a lot of openings here that we're kind of filling in and trying to create some of these horizontal horizontal elements there and kind of wrapping this around. And I've tried to use some louvers there to carry that horizontal effect that we have. One thing I want to kind of touch upon is the actual design. The design itself, where the height of the building is actually being lower than what it's there now. I think, if I'm not mistaken, approximately 4 feet. And it is actually going to be lower than what it was there before. The actual arc of the existing building, the flat portion of that roof is going to be actually lower than what it was there. The lot tie adjacent to the building was one of the items that it was uncertain that has been completed, and with that lot tie, we are getting the ability to be able to provide parking, and parking has been one of the sore subjects in this whole the project. Existing building requires 18 parking. Prior to this change of use, it required 18 parking. Obviously, the parking was a major issue. Originally, our owner, I understand that it was using that lot as parking spaces illegally. Legally, I don't know, but it was illegal in the building stand, building code stand, because it was never tied. So those parkings could not be actually used to accommodate this building. We actually tried a couple of different scenarios of provide more parking in that, as far as going into tandem parking and different types of parking. We actually got one more parking, but going through that one more parking, it created a lot more headache than what it was worth, and we just went ahead and say, we're going to improve that site, and we're going to provide as many parking as we can to accommodate the loss or the grandfathered amount of parking that it's given to us. So mitigate that as much as we can. Going from a more intense, as Gevorg mentioned, going from a more intense use down to a less of an intense parking count, we're accommodating 5 parking from the 11 or 12 that technically it's required. We do have off-site parking, obviously, but they've gone ahead and we've tried to mitigate that as much as possible, and that's been the best that we could do on that. There's been another issue and item that we discussed in many of their meetings, and the initial meeting that we did was the element that the higher element there that everybody was talking about is, what about the second story? Well, there is going to be no second story. There's none in the future. There's none right now. And if there is going to be anything in the future, they will have to go through the permit process. They will have to provide parking for that. So that's said, and we're not providing that. Original design, I'm not sure, I don't recall that, but originally did not provide any trash or recycle area, so we are providing that. Also, in the original design, we did not have any landscaping, and one of the concerns that the neighbor had was landscaping. We hired a landscape architect. They provided, he did a great job in creating a variety of different planting. We are also listening to the neighbors, and we're going to try, and then that's emphasizing try to go ahead and put the sycamores offside, and that's going to be working with the Public Works and trying to accommodate the 3 sycamores that you see along the south side of the property. Colors were another issue that we've kind of massaged the colors, more of earthier colors and something. Originally, I had a bright blue, and I kind of went a little bit crazy with the colors, but the neighbors weren't that excited. The canopy was another item that was discussed. One of the original schemes that the neighbors saw, we were actually incorporating a similar but not the same type of canopy, angled canopy with the support and everything. After discussing with staff, which at the end I agree with them, is that let's not try to mimic what's there, let's come up with a new, and staff did research, and it was not any historical significant to the building, so we're free and clear to be able to come up with something new and something different. The owner asked me to kind of emphasize this also, is that we have been looking and entertaining some consultants as far as incorporating solar panels, skylighting, and trying to make this building as efficient as we can. And right now, we're in the midst of deciding on who we go with and trying to incorporate that, but that's going to come in the future.
So the solar panel will go on the high roof or the low roof?
It would be on the low roof. It would be. Right now, we don't know. I'm not the expert in that, so I have to see. It's most probably going to be on the lower roof, more of the southern sun, and be able to capture as much light as we can.
But the parapet there is not very high, though, is it? So you won't be able to screen them.
Right,
You'll see
absolutely.
the sawtooth street.
Right. So it would be within the parapet itself, inside the parapet itself. One of the within the
If I could ask you to
I'm
maybe
sorry?
sum up, if you could sum up, that would be great.
Yeah, just one quick other thing. We did have structural engineers look at the design, and we've made some minor tweaks in the design itself. I had a placeholder of 6 air conditioning units and smaller units, and we're going to go with 4 air conditioning units, small, combined the zones. And there's some minor structural other elements there that will not affect the exterior significantly.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Alan, on sheet 2.1, 2.1 down here, we're looking down to the roof before we say open below, and I see these these columns on sheet 4.0, and I don't see the dash line.
That should appear because it just depends where you're cutting it. What it's being cut is it's basically
You're cutting it from here then.
Right.
But these beams are there.
It would be there too. We're keeping that because essentially as the entire roof is out, and all the exterior walls have been punched open, and somehow the top of the roof needs to tie together.
Okay, well, you got this beam here for these rafters here.
Right, that's going to be there, and then the bottom piece is going to be exactly. So that is there. I figure, this thing, the structural engineer is saying that we're just using it to. Can I come up?
I know you don't have to. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
It's very.
For the span here and the ratio here is probably very tall, and the spacing.
It's there, so I figure. So I'm going to cut everything on top of that and keep the structural bracing, because along the entire perimeter of that line, there's a C channel, and within each column and the C channel, there's these braces that are going back into the C channel that are attached to the wall, and those beams and the bracing is actually tying that entire facade, that brick wall is just sitting out there. It's just that whole thing is staying tied together, and that's all
The
it
frame
is.
is doing it, right.
So I'm already putting them through the expense of cutting that whole arc out, so I figure if that's there, why not use it for support the walls? That's all it is.
Great, anything else? No?
Do you have a card from the owner, or?
Well, he's representing
Oh,
the
he's
owner
rep-
as well. He's the.
Do you know offhand how big a staff they currently have at their business, or how big a staff there? Okay.
Hi, we have,
Could you come to the podium, please, and state your name?
The card is one.
Yes, if you could fill out a card afterwards.
nice to meet you, Val Babishoff. I'm President CEO. This is a software kind of business. I've been doing this for 30 years, and the staff varies, okay? It changes. And at certain point was 120 people, but now we have 5. It's my intent is to continue. First of all, I have few ventures, software ventures, and the good news is that all of them don't require walk-in customers. It's internet type of thing. I'm building, as we speak, I'm building incubator type of thing, like nurturing small ventures with few guys. And this is what I plan to do in the future with this building.
Question, Chair. You're not the same
Francois,
gentleman.
do you mind
Microphone there.
moving your mic down? Thank you, just so that we...
You're not the same gentleman that was here, I think, in March.
I was not
Is
here
the
in
building,
March, I was
because he
traveling.
represented himself as the owner of the building who did all the structural engineering. Was that the owner, or are you
No,
the
I'm the
owner?
owner, and me and my wife, we own the
Who was the
building.
gentleman at that time, do you recall?
He's a general contractor.
Oh, he was not the owner.
He was relative to the family, but he's a general contractor.
Okay, so you hired him to do the work with
Yeah.
the arches and such. Okay, because you know the big problem that created.
I mean, I know very well.
Pardon?
I'm aware.
Okay, it was a big problem.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
A couple questions for Alan.
Yes.
So the arches that were there before, not the steel ones, but the previous ones, do you know what the height of that was? Actually, there's a survey there. You have a survey in your packet. And in that survey, the actual civil, you would see the grade.
Oh, yeah.
25
Of
feet,
existing current
0.9,
foot,
25 feet, 0.9. So, yeah, this is 22.6 plus. So,
There was a legal survey prepared prior for any
Yeah, so
demolition.
it is lower.
They actually, and do you know what it was or what it is per the new steel that was put up before? The steel that is put up, you see the outline of that arc there? And that's where it is right now. Okay, And so the that's where it
uh,
is is right now. section kind of shows the 4 foot lower than existing, okay.
I got one other question for you. Pause. Talk to me a little bit about the wall to the north. There is an existing,
There's an existing wall. I'm not really 100% clear about the situation of the wall. Both the owner and both owners are
Both
here.
owners are here.
But I'll try to do my best to
Right.
kind of explain and correct me if I'm wrong in this situation. I believe they have placed a wall, and they had a permit to put up a wall in. And the wall, the height of the wall was taller than what the northerly neighbor expected to have. And then at the end of the day, what they've done is they've lowered the to 8 foot tall, which from my last understanding, what was that? From 10 foot to 8 foot. And one of the requirements were, when we met, was that to landscape and provide growing vines and kind of cover that. We did actually push the height, the taller piece of the fence back, I believe it's 16 feet or so, or a little bit more than that, to clear the clearance in front of that.
okay.
So
That's
so
what I
we
saw
did,
that
that was one
step in
other element, but we do need to have the retaining wall there, which is about a 42-inch high. And it goes back all the way to the trash enclosure.
there's an existing 42-inch,
I don't know if it's existing.
Oh,
I think
it's not existing, but there is an elevation change between the two properties. Okay.
And I'm sure they can elaborate on
Okay.
that a little bit
Thank
more.
you.
if they-
yeah, one other question. Mr.
Yeah, Alan, when you look at Section 1, and I don't know City of Glendale code, but we have this structure
that is-
canopy and this structure canopy, not this one so much, but this one appear to be going beyond the
Right.
property line.
From my understanding, I actually checked with the city, and from my understanding is when you go above 8 feet, anything that is projecting out, I believe you can get 1 inch per foot. I'm sorry, 1 inch per inch or something like that in that sense. So that is kind of up in the air, and that's one of the concerns that you guys had, and I've kind of put that in there. The depth itself is allowed, but I'm not sure exactly the actual projection amount. I know above 8 feet you're allowed, but the actual, the height versus the projection is, I believe is 1 inch per inch. If I may be wrong, or that can be
Maybe because
clarified.
it's such an important aspect of the
It's about,
architecture and
it's actually, I think what we have is about 14 inches or 13 inches of eyebrow.
Awnings that project over a public right-of-way can be approved from the Public Works Department through an encroachment permit.
Would you consider this an awning? Because it's the way it appears to be framed is not the traditional awning of canvas or metal and rail and frame. It's actually an integral part of the structure,
It would be part of a canopy that projects over the public right-of-way.
even though it has permanent construction aspects of it, which is terrific.
I believe so. However, we obviously would need to double-check that with our Public Works Department.
Okay, Stephanie is saying yes.
Well, I would defer to him.
Okay. My concern is it's such an important aspect of the building to have something now become a canvas awning or just a little, it's
No,
it's about the architecture, it's
yeah,
about these permanent
absolutely.
blades.
We do have 2 inches there to play, and it's about 14 inches of eyebrow there, so,
Okay, thank you. Okay?
or somewhere in that. Okay.
I'm stretching.
Any other questions?
Actually, I was doing the calculation. So is it, for what it was there, what the roof structure was there before anything happened to it, is actually a foot higher than what's there now as a steel structure?
I'm sorry?
So the steel structure as it was rebuilt is actually lower than what the existing
Right.
roof was there before?
Right.
Okay, because everyone's checking there, and I think that was one of the issues that had come up too.
I mean, I did not get involved in the
No, I
initial
remember, because I
part
just
of it,
remember from the
but
last meeting,
from-
that was a big,
Exactly.
Big,
I mean,
point of
I don't know if
contention.
anybody noticed the survey, but based on the legal survey, a legal survey had prepared prior to demolition, you have an elevation point of the actual arc of the
Yeah,
roof that
and
was
that's what it
there.
says, yeah.
And what it was built, if you actually look at those numbers, based on those numbers, that steel structure is actually lower than what it was there. Now, I'm not
maybe it
there
goes
to,
back both ways.
I'm not there to,
You know, it's-
whatever has
it's
happened,
neither here
happened.
nor there. I
This
just
is
remember when I
what-
drove by back in March, and I go, wow, it doesn't look like the building I recall with
Right.
respect to the vertical height. But neither here
But,
nor
I
there
mean,
now, I guess.
That's what the survey is, and
All right, very good, thank you.
Thanks.
And then I would like to ask the owner if you could fill out a card and give it to staff, because you came to the podium to speak, and we have to have your card.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I may interject a comment before you're about to go to the public comments?
I have one more card.
Okay.
Yeah. You want- I have one more
Yeah,
card.
okay.
You want to wait, or do you want to?
Well, I mean, just in terms of the input that people give and the questions that the board might ask, I know that parking is a concern for many people in this case. This project meets the code for parking, and with all due respect, it is not the purview of this board to try to override the non-conforming rights in terms of parking. With the parking spaces that are provided, you do have authority over site layout if there's another way to design them so that you feel that they might work better, keeping in mind that this is a rebuild, that this is, a remodel of an existing building, and they're not required to provide any additional parking.
Right. I think we're clear.
But-
Very good.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
thanks.
Last speaker is Scott Trulick, and I'm sorry for... Trulick, okay.
Good evening. My name is Scott Trulick. I'm president of the Spar Heights Business Association in Spar Heights. I spoke at the last meeting that we had, and yes, parking is an issue, and I understand that they meet their requirements, but as it stands now with that building being vacant, we already have a parking problem. So for them to bring in, and they're saying 5, but I believe, if you look at the plans, how many offices are there, plus receptionists, and maybe somebody answer the phones, they're going to have more than 4 people and 1 handicapped person in that building. There's 2-hour parking on Ocean View. There's 2-hour parking on Sunview, and there's 2-hour parking on Downing, which is basically what surrounds their building. So they're either going to park all day on the street, which is already a problem, or I'm not sure where they're going to park. That's the issue. As far as the roof line, I believe there's a picture in the bottom right-hand corner there of the original building before they did the demolition. You can see in that picture that the roof line is far below their new design. It's far below the arch supports that they put in originally. So for them to sit up here and tell you that this roof line that they're proposing here is lower than the original roof line is preposterous. You can plainly see in that picture.
Yeah, well, it's a bow truss of some sort, right?
Point noted, okay, go ahead.
Also, the power pole that was originally there with the original roof line is still there. And you can see the tar line on the power pole where the original roof line was. So if you need a point of reference, you can go look at that. They actually had to run the power lines through the steel arches to get to the power pole, to keep power on the site. Is it my understanding now that they're going to close the significant portion of the windows on that south-facing wall? Is that what they're doing? Because right now the south-facing wall looks exactly like the north-facing wall. It's windows all the way down the side.
Well, this has been mislabeled. This is actually the north side now, I believe.
That's
This
right.
is south and south. This is actually north, right here.
Okay. Now the picture, two pictures down,
That's the
That's the
south.
south.
okay, it currently has just as many windows as the other side. So they're going to close those off, is that what you're saying?
And there's one, the proposed is 1, 2, 3, 3 and a quarter, 4 and a quarter, 5 and a quarter, 5 and a half. All these are being shortened
Okay.
and put up high. So these are being closed off
That's clear on
completely,
this
and
one.
then these are being shortened up
So
to
we'll
this
keep
to this
the
elevation.
Okay. Our landscape architect that's a member of our board of Spar Heights had a concern about the plants along the sidewalk. They've got barrel cactus proposed and I think it was other cacti that maybe isn't such a good idea along a sidewalk.
There's no record of that here.
Okay. In their landscape design that they presented to us,
Well, they must have changed it because I don't see anything on the sidewalk,
okay.
or parkway, I should say, that shows that.
Deer tracks.
I guess my last issue would be the wall that's between the two properties. Currently, my recollection is it's a retaining wall that's roughly 24 inches high. They came in when they started doing the construction on the property and put in a chain link fence. Actually, it was a canvas tarps, and I believe that's what's there now. But that's after they started the project. The original wall is maybe 2.5 feet high. And at the top is the driveway for Ken Daniels, and at the bottom is the driveway for this property. So there's no actual wall between them, it's just a retaining wall that's level with the property line just north of this property. They want to put in a 10-foot wall, and the design up there looks like it's going to be 10 feet from the top of the retaining wall. And we had spoken with them, and they did make some concessions as far as lowering the wall at the front of the property so Ken Daniels signage would be visible from Ocean View. But to have a 10-foot wall on the top of that little retaining wall that doesn't fit anywhere in Spar Heights. It's just too much. I mean, I can understand a 6-foot wall. It's a barrier, it's a sound barrier, and it keeps people off of their property. But a 10-foot wall? This isn't a prison. I think that should be made clear if that height is from this property line or Ken Daniels' property line.
Maybe the designer can explain why they're putting a 10-foot high wall there.
That would be nice.
It's over here. It's from here. From here to here, this is a 10-foot high wall.
where's the document? Oh.
Right here, 10-foot high. And this is a 42-inch high wall. This probably has to do with sight lines and
Right.
stuff.
But 10 foot high from their grade, from their parking,
From their side. That's
which
what-
means it's probably,
8.
Even if it's 10 foot from their property side, that's still an 8-foot high wall. There's no 8-foot high walls in our area.
Okay, I'm sure they can explain. We'll ask them.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Were there any questions for the gentleman? No? Okay, rebuttal.
Okay, parking,
If I could
gentlemen,
just limit to a couple of minutes, that would be great.
I'm sorry?
The rebuttal for a couple of minutes, if you can.
Okay, just really quick. As far as parking, gentleman, he indicated that he's the president of the business association. This is a business. the business, whatever it comes there, they need to have parking. It's a fact of life, and it's a fact of the use. We're mitigating as much as we can. They should be happy something is going to be happening over here, not keep it vacant or bring a retail store which is going to have a lot more parking demand than what it's there now. So as a business operator and any of the business operators there, they should understand that business works with vehicular traffic and people have to drive to the building. So saying that there's a problem as far as parking, I just don't understand what else we can do to accommodate that. Lower than the, I never said that, I indicated that those elevations were given by the civil engineer. I wasn't there, I've never, so if that's what it's appearing, that's what it's appearing. All I know is from what it's there now, we're lowering 4 feet. So the arches that it's there now, the height of that the highest point is 4 feet lower than what they're going to see there now. So I'm not arguing if there was there or if it wasn't or whatever the case may have been.
You're 4 foot lower than the actual steel truss.
Steel truss that is there now. That's what I'm indicating. As far as the planting, after the last meeting that the landscape architect attended the community meeting, they went back and they redid the landscape drawings and we resubmitted that. And as far as the 8-foot wall, the 10-foot was originally, after we submitted in, the discussion was happened, and so we never had a chance to do that. But it's actually 8 feet from the owners, the subject property. It's actually lower because they're actually on a higher elevation on the other side. So
Actually 8 feet then from your side?
It's 8 feet from our side, and it's actually lower because they're actually 6-ish or whatever it is.
So that information is not correct?
No, it
So what's
will
from
be
their
8
side?
feet, exactly.
From your
Measured
property
from
will
your
be
side,
8 feet.
And from their side will be,
Whatever the elevation, let's say 6 feet or whatever the height
their
of
side.
Is there a
From
reason?
our side is 8 feet.
I'm talking about if they're standing on their property
It
looking,
would be 6 feet or whatever the elevation changes. I don't know. I don't have that great
Is
elevation.
there a reason why you want it 8 feet? Is there a design reason?
Well, it's very simple. He's spending over, $500,000, maybe even more. And, looking in the office and opening up, and we did indicate it to the owners, with all due respect, you're spending all this money, you're looking through, and you bring in this lower, you're going to be looking at a mechanic shop, and so obviously we want to mitigate that. We've lowered it as much as we can. We're going to plant that as much as we can, and we cut that back in the front. Anyways, whatever we do, and, they're going to be able to see the mechanic shop from the street level. So we have to look at it both ways. They've lowered it to accommodate whatever the height that, and that actual, the rendering over there is actually the height that you're gonna see that, what you're gonna see over there. And all the signage, everything that is gonna be there, it's still gonna be visible. So it's not really, before it was actually 2 foot high, and so the signage weren't even apparent and so forth. So
Alan, from the inside of the space, where is the sill on this window right here as it goes across? Do you know how high you've set the sill from here to up?
that sill, I have to, I don't have that.
Well, if I use my scale, it looks like it's about 4 feet above.
Yeah, just about 4 feet,
So
right.
the sill is about 4 feet.
Right.
For someone sitting in that office, there's a sill right
Exactly.
there. Okay.
Right.
very good. Are there any,
That's it.
all right. Thank you.
Alan.
Thank you.
I'm going to close the public session, and we're going to start commenting.
Leave this here.
Who would like to start?
Nobody. I don't know, pick some.
I pick you.
I'll start.
Let's see what happens when you come on.
I clearly understand our limitations in the design review, pretty black and white, that parking is grandfathered, if you will. Is restrooms also grandfathered to its previous usage?
It would be up to the building code for that. so.
Exactly. So my point is that on one side, we can grandfather existing usage with parking and not require upgrade, but that doesn't extend itself to restrooms. Restrooms, you have to comply to its occupancy.
Correct.
Okay, so thank you.
Parking is the zoning code issue, whereas the building
I'm
department...
aware of that, I know. There's a disparity between requirements. Okay. Okay. Alan, you did a great job, as you always do. I think the owners recognized at the last meeting that there was a big problem with the way you had approached this project, and you chose someone who has a history with this city of doing good work. I think a classic example is of this project, and I commend you for taking a moment, taking a breath, and saying we need to do better. And I don't see the community opposition that we once had back in March or whenever it was. Having said that, Alan, I commend you for your approach to the design and how you're approaching it with green usage of materials and such. This would be a great potential opportunity to see how close you can maybe have the project be green or a LEED certified, LEED approached. Obviously, it's very important to conserve resources, and this type of design, which you're terrific at doing, lends itself to that. Your automatic windows, your roofs, maybe the material of the roof could be high performance, reflective roofing, landscaping, recycling of perhaps material, so on, all those things that you're so good at. I think this building could really try to achieve that and be even more sensitive to the community and in 2008. So if you can really push that envelope, I think you're going to really, you'll be real successful in that. I like the design. I'm going to get back to it in a second. My concern is, here's my concern. My concern is that design-wise, this interstitial space has the potential, design-wise, to be utilized later. It's a very heavily structured member, and that the potential is later on it may impact the usage and the overall impact on design. I'm more comfortable in figuring out engineering some way, which can be done, to not retain that horizontal member. I would prefer to have that completely gone and have clear storage all the way up to the underside of the roof. So for me, that would be a design element that I think would be very important to not have in this building. And then in closing, I can't say how good I think the design is. I think there'll be less traffic, which I think the neighborhood wants potential less traffic. Traffic is different than parking. It hasn't solved the parking issue. I don't think it can be solved. It's an existing building, existing site that required less parking before, but I believe this usage will be less traffic, less noise, less which the previous use would have brought to the neighborhood. Perhaps that's an issue that it's a design, but I think the design is less traffic to the site. I was looking at the vertical height. I think that the vertical height, obviously taller than before, but successfully breaks it with these horizontal bands, utilizing the downslope. I think it works perfectly to have a building that's that height. The horizontal soffits, I think, are nice and thick. And I think that this project is really going to be a great addition to this community, to this neighborhood, and bringing in new architectural approach to a neighborhood that is tired. You know, we want to renovate these older buildings. I think this is a terrific approach. So aside from that horizontal structure and design, I'm all for this project.
Great. Thank you very much.
You know, I'm a new member of the board, and I'll look back at the staff. I understand parking isn't our purview. Could somebody kind of explain to me how the original occupancy permit had 17 spaces, which we don't see anywhere on site? I guess, and you...
The original use by today's code would have required 17 spaces.
Okay, with the new construction.
Back then, when it was built, it was not required to have that many, but
I got you.
According to today's code, it would have been required to provide that many spaces.
And so the owner is taking... It is kind of, I mean, it is new construction, but the frame, the walls are existing. If it was a home, in a single-family home, more than 50% of it is being remodeled. It would be considered new construction, would it not?
If more than 50% is being removed.
Removed.
Not remodeled.
Well, I mean,
removed.
it seems that more than 50% of the existing building is gone already, because there's only 4 walls left. But anyway, I'll back on.
That's 50%
I'm concerned with the neighbors.
exterior, by the
Is
way,
that
not
it?
the interior,
Right.
just the exterior,
Correct. It would be
Yeah.
just the exterior walls and roof area.
not the interior.
The roof area is it's large.
Well, there's no roof left, and there are 4 walls. But the point being, and I guess I'll reiterate it, but again, I have no control over it as a member of the Design Review Board. There is an impact on the neighbors from parking, and I appreciate the guy's business, the applicant. I mean, I understand software. I can understand you have up to 120 employees in Bangalore, India, still being on his payroll, but, they're not coming to Montrose. But when you count up, there are 8 offices. One of them's 400-square-foot office, so we know it'll have more than one person in it. There is not adequate parking for the use. So with that being said, I second Mr. Insua's comments about Alan's project, and I think you guys did a great move. I didn't see it the very first time. I saw it the last time, and it's a world of difference. You've moved in the right direction, and I would agree with you on the other concern was, at some point, does that mezzanine then become another second story, and the 5 parking spaces now have 12 offices or 14 offices? But I think your suggestion may help to ameliorate that. If you could make your 8-foot wall, I understand people in that office looking out the windows, even though I think on one side of that, if I remember the floor plan, is it's the lounge and a work area, and the conference room is in. Anything you can do to keep it from being a massive wall? I understand if there was a 2-foot grade difference, which it looked like there was some, I don't know what it was, the measurement when I looked at the project. The lowest you can make your wall will be the best. And I guess, with that, I think with your note as a condition, I would be willing to accept the project.
Okay, your turn. That's the beauty of being chairman, I get to go last.
I think enough's been said about the parking, so I'll leave that alone. Come on. I don't know what else I can add. We need more, okay. All right.
No.
I guess talking about the design, I think I like the use of materials. I like the shapes that are created. I like the way it steps from the street side going up that way. And it actually kind of lines up with the sort of the garage space that's on this side, it creates as it goes up. One thing that I was thinking was it would be nice to sort of give a hint of that you are using some of the walls that are there. I know that you're going to be plastering over them. Maybe consider one or maybe a part of a wall or something, sandblasting it, keeping it a brick, just to kind of tie back. Just a consideration, but it'd be nice to just kind of see that a little bit. Another thing is just, this piece right here just seems really bulky to me. And looking at it at this angle, it kind of heightens that bulk. So maybe look into taking that back a little bit, because I know that you have these windows here that are north facing with a really deep recess that it's kind of strange a little bit. But I know that it's created because you're basically coming to the corner and you need a certain depth here and a certain depth here, and as it comes together, but maybe lighten that up a little bit. It looks a little heavy, especially for that corner as you enter into that parking space area. But other than that, the windows are very clean, the massing is clean, this distinction between the materials is very clean, and so I think besides that, I'm also ready to approve it as is.
Great, thank you. I'm going to echo the same comments. I won't dwell on the parking as well. I share the same concerns, but it's really beyond our control at this point. So I'll comment on the design, Mr. Malakian. It's a wonderful job. I think this building will complement the building across the way very well. There's a really nice building in this area here, a beautiful white, sort of has more of a Richard Neutra aesthetic. And I think, the fact that you've introduced this white element, this sort of dog-leg shape, complements that building because that language occurs across the way. So for me, I live in the area. I live in Montrose, and I driving by here and seeing these two buildings having a dialogue with each other, it starts to sort of indicate that this is kind of a gateway into into the residential community beyond. And I find it to be a really an amenity that was needed. You know, even the older building didn't quite match up. I mean, the original, which had that sort of aesthetic, which has been transformed, I think this really makes that corner a lot more attractive, a lot more pleasant. And, you know, all these code issues and things that you had to live with, in the parking, one of them, I think, you know, if we don't do anything about this corner, we're going to have this eyesore there for years to come, and nobody wants that. So I really welcome this project, and I believe it will be successful. I think with respect to, you know, future, whether the applicant intends to put more use, more people in the building, I think we have to leave that up to the building and safety to make sure that they catch that, and if there's some kind of an agreement where if that occurs, it has to go through the normal process, because certainly we would not want this building to be overpowered with usage and then have to spill, not spill, but require more parking on the street. Excuse me. So I sort of, you know, I'm concerned about that. But again, there's nothing we can do about that, because it's something that, if it happens, it will happen in the future. And we hope that the city will be vigilant of that and perhaps be, you know, act on that very quickly when it occurs. What else can I say? You know, the use of materials, the idea of the solar panels sounds very intriguing to me, because I'm very much for those sort of things. I do think that if you are going to do that, you need to come to terms with it now, not later, and you're very well aware of that, because solar panels require an angle to get the optimum usage out of it. And with a scheme like this, if you do put an angle on those panels, it will throw your design off. So you may have to live with panels that are completely flat, which you could do here. It won't be optimal, but you can still get some use out of it. So I strongly encourage that if you are going to do panels, that someday the owner doesn't come back and just has these sawtooth shapes on the roof, which I think will destroy what you try to achieve here. The wall between the service, or not the service station, but the mechanics structure to the north and the parking, you know, I think if you could consider lowering even a foot, I understand what you're trying to do, but, you know, I think you might want to work with the neighbors to make sure that, and even the planning department may want to look at that. It's very hard. From the rendering, it looks great, but when that picture 8 feet, it might feel a little bit high. But you do have landscaping that kind of mitigates that height, and I understand. I think there are a lot of cars parked in that driveway when the service place is open, so it is kind of, you know, a situation where you're trying to screen, because the use of this building is quite different. So I'm going to leave that up to you and the planning department to make sure you come to an understanding that's satisfactory to the neighbors. And let's see, I don't think I left anything out. I think that's basically it. Yeah. I mean, I understand completely what you're trying to do, and the materials are wonderful, and the forms that you created, the weight steps, you know. Lastly, I want to talk about that, actually. The nice thing about this is that it has a natural sort of stepping from the lower point to the other point, where if all of this was brought on the other side, it would have been kind of, I think it would have been problematic. And you also have the same thing happening from the alley, so it steps in from the alley because there is a house there. So I think you'll be very sensitive to all these things, and I really appreciate that. So with that said, I also support the project.
I just have one concern. That people may want to use this area as a toilet. I'd suggest this is probably a better place to use the toilet. Humor. Forget it.
Thank you, Mr. Zua, for pointing that out to us.
It's a European concept.
I missed that one. All right.
We'll work with these.
I got you. We got
Okay, well,
Make a motion.
if there's someone that can make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve, and with the only condition that, for architectural reasons, that the horizontal beams in between, in this section between, these horizontal beams be removed for architectural reasons.
Okay, is that a consideration or a
No
requirement?
condition.
Condition, okay. All right, very good.
I'd second that.
Also, if the board wishes to have the fence reduced in height, perhaps the board would like to specify exactly or approximately how much to reduce it, rather than relying on to the satisfaction of the neighbor, because that puts
Right,
the
right.
planning staff in a very precarious situation.
I mean, I could live with 7 feet. I don't know how the
Okay,
board
yeah, I
feels
would-
about that.
Okay, we can add that.
Okay.
All right,
So you would
Would
just
that be
be
as a
amending your
condition as well?
motion?
yes.
Yeah, we can do that.
7 feet from whose side?
From their side, yeah. From the applicant side, yeah.
So we have
From
two
grade.
specific conditions.
From grade.
One of them is, excuse me, one of them is to remove the horizontal beams, the structural beams, and the second one is to lower the height of the wall to 7 feet from the south side, the subject property side. There were also several considerations that were mentioned. One was to plan for those solar panels if they're going to be incorporated, somehow plan for them ahead of time.
Well, that's just a consideration. I mean, the architect understands if they're going to put solar panels, you know, we probably want to, I don't know if
It'll
there's
probably
any...
go on the higher roof.
Yeah, but I think it should be in there that if they're going to be put solar panels and they're going to be visible, that should be considered by the planning department. It should be reviewed.
There was, excuse me, there was also a consideration brought up by Mr. Yu about bringing out the windows on the northern side to...
Well, it was actually the reducing the
upper-
mass, I think, of the corner.
It was just a corner. It was just a
Oh,
consideration.
just the corner.
That's
Would you
the
want me
mass.
to put that as a consideration as well in the report?
Sure.
Again, it's up to board member Insua.
Sure, it's a consideration.
Yeah.
Consideration, okay. And with that, we had a motion made by Mr. Insua, and we had a second by Mr. Ellis. Before I go over roll call, I would like to also go over the draft record of decision that was earlier mentioned.
Okay.
No changes are proposed to the location of the existing building, and no additional floor area is proposed. The addition of 4 parking spaces along with landscaping and a trash enclosure is appropriate for this site. Overall, mass and scale of the project is appropriate for this site and the type of use. The proposal is a design improvement and fits well within the existing surrounding office buildings. And lastly, the proposed colors, materials, and detail seem to fit well within the site and the surrounding. The proposal is an improvement to the existing site and the building. So that will go in the record of decision as well.
Okay, could you read the ones, the comments and concerns or requirements that we specify? Could you read
You want to
them?
go over them
By
again?
one, because we
So-
kind of lost.
Of course. So we had 2 conditions. One was to remove the horizontal beams, the support structures, and the other one, second condition was to lower...
Make sure you clarify that that's in the clear story area, not on the other side.
Okay,
Because, right,
The north side of the...
the north side of the
Nice side of the
hallway, yeah.
horizontal.
all right. And the second condition was to lower the height of the wall at the northern property line to 7 feet,
Okay.
viewing it from south side.
From the grade of the owner's side, yes.
Yes. Okay, with that,
No, there was consideration.
of the window
No, not the wind.
bringing out by, it was a consideration made.
I think that was a consideration to reduce the bulk on the north face.
Northeast corner.
Just a corner.
Oh, just the,
Just the northeast corner.
okay, at the northeast corner.
That corner.
But that's a consideration, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But don't forget to comment on the solar
And the
panels.
solar panels.
If they're visible, they need to be reviewed by the planning department.
And that's in consideration, too.
All right. This will be a roll call. Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Insua?
Yes.
Mr. Yu?
Yes.
Chairperson Aliana?
Yes,
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, don't think we have any other cases.
No, that is our one and only case for this evening's regular agenda. Next would be the approval of the minutes. The minutes from the Alternative Assessment Panel for August 7th, 2008. We would like to continue that for 2 weeks. That way, Board Member Simonian will be present. We'll
All
have
right.
3 members. And so that leads us to the very last item, which is, yes, correct. The last item would be, forgive me if you don't mind, we'll just have Our meeting will last just a few more seconds, so if you don't mind being quiet, please, while you're exiting the building. The last item would be the minutes of August the 21st. And everyone was present that day.
We were.
Except Mr. Ritzel.
Sue and Mr. Simone.
Yes.
Was on
So we're
vacation.
August the 20, oh, I apologize,
21.
no.
Yeah.
So,
Absent and-
it's actually, there is a correction, it should be Mr. Eliano, not Mrs. Eliano.
Oh.
You're present.
There you go.
But other
Did you
than
catch that,
that,
Ms. Eliano?
definitely not Ms. Eliano, but with that correction,
I'll move acceptance of the minutes of August 21.
all right, we have a motion by Board Member Ellis. Board Member,
I second.
you would like to second that. So Board Member Eliano,
Yes.
Board Member Ellis,
Yes.
Board Member Yu. The
Yes.
motion passes 3-0 with 2 abstentions. And that concludes staff's announcements.
Great.
Chairman
Move we
Pro Tem,
adjourn.
would you like to adjourn?
Anybody want to, okay.
Goodbye.
All right, thank you very much.
What am I, oh, I'm saying.